Oh my God, you're rocking a bob.
I'm not gonna it's not a bob, it's a lob.
Is it? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, long bob. You know what
Ooh,
it
short
is?
bob.
No, it's not short. It's like it's to my it's to my collarbone.
Okay.
You know what it is? I took my extensions out. I didn't
Mhm.
actually cut the hair. The extensions are no longer with us. It's like a moment, it's like a power moment of like acknowledging how much my own hair has like grown back after, losing most of it before I got divorced and with everything that I went through emotionally and mentally. So it was like, you know what? I don't want to say I hid behind my extensions, but they would definitely comforted me when when I needed it. And now it was like, okay, I'm going to go without and see.
You're hearing it first, people. Extensions can comfort you in a time of need. But what I'm hearing is that you're kind of like liberated. You're kind of free. You look great. Your
I
hair looks healthy. I think this is positive.
Hey, I'm here for it. Ha ha ha.
Whoa,
But
whoa.
you know what I'm not here for? And I think we need to talk about this before we talk about anything else because it's consuming my life lately and yours from what we've chatted about off the show. Like perimenopause.
Oh, I don't want to go
I I don't feel good. I am out of it right now because I drank like a glass of wine, maybe a glass and a half last night, and it feels like I consumed 2 bottles of wine, and I just feel like every day though, uh, my irritability level, I'm not sleeping well. I get, like, puffy sometimes and not puffy other times, and it's not and my diet has not changed, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know.
It's called midlife. It's called midlife, and it happens to men and women. So it's not just a woman thing. I mean, they call it perimenopause, that's a woman thing, but I've seen it on both sides and I see it. And I think it's a topic maybe we need to talk about because it's middle age and it affects your decision making. It affects the way you feel about yourself. Add a divorce on to it. Oh my gosh, right? Like you're feeling puffy and disgusting and nasty. And then now you're just even more with the divorce. So hey, we're here for you if you're feeling like that. Andrea, you've got this. We're gonna get going on this today. We're gonna make people
Yeah.
feel good.
We need to because I feel it for people who, like, to what you just said, are, like, going through something already major when on top of that, their hormones or whatever they have going on are just impacting this, and they just feel like they're drowning. Man. But,
Mm,
speaking of drowning, something else that is actually what we're talking about today, you can feel like you're drowning by getting so many mixed messages and feeling like you're being ping ponged about or strung along, as a lot of people say, if your spouse hasn't, I don't want to say pulled the plug on your marriage, but like really decided, or maybe it's you. Maybe you're the one that hasn't decided and you're unintentionally stringing someone along, and I'm sure that wears on you.
right. So I'm gonna tee it up with a story. It's good that you came in with this because I'm gonna tee it up with a story that I heard this week. So I have a male client, and the male client wants nothing more than to stay married to his wife of a million years with kids, etc. Live a beautiful life. Everything is looks great from the outside. The issue is that the wife is struggling. And as a divorce lawyer, just from what I'm hearing, and I can't really say this, I think the wife truly wants out of the marriage, but she isn't strong enough to come out the door and say it.
Mhm.
So, what is happening is the wife is blaming a lot of things on herself to make the husband feel bad. So, let me give you some examples. I'm going through perimenopause. I just don't feel like myself. Can you give me some space?
Mm,
I'm really stressed out at work. I need more space. I need some time away. I need to have a separate place to go to. I'll kind of come and go in the marital residence as I please. This is just help me get through this really tough time. So the husband's thinking to himself, well, yeah, like, of course. I mean, I signed up for this marriage. I'm going to give you what you need, etc. after a while, husband starts to feel like, well, wait a minute. I'm kind of feeling taken advantage of. You're coming and going as you want. You want the good things, like you want to come to Thanksgiving dinner, you want to go on family vacations, but then you also want what you want. You want to live this kind of single life. So if it's, a work event, a concert or whatever, you blame it on yourself or your work and then you're gone. And so this client, this poor husband said to me, he's like, I said, "What are your goals?" And he said, "I just don't want to get divorced." I said, "No problem." He said, "But the problem that you're going to have in the future is that you're going to be the bad guy because you've got two options in those situations. One, your option is that you can either stay put, but you're going to put up with all the crap that they're throwing your way. You're basically getting walked on. And the other option is to put your foot down, set boundaries, whether it be a divorce or other boundaries, and now you're the bad guy. So it's this awful no-win situation in this type of relationship. And it's often not talked about a lot, but I am seeing it more and more. And I saw it, when you and I were talking about episodes, I was like, we need to talk about this because this is happening a lot.
W what I'm wondering, though, is with these people, the one who's, saying, "I wanna come and go as I please," it's let's I mean, I did this client actually tell you that his wife was using perimenopause as something that she was going through?
No, no,
Okay,
absolutely not. Mm-mm.
because I'm wondering, though, I don't know what we can say unequivocally that it is an excuse. Or is it really part of the process? I mean, I want to say, like, I kind of see both sides of this, right? Because I understand the point of view of your client, right? And nobody wants to feel like they're being taken advantage of, and nobody wants to be strung along. And my God, I mean, the majority of the people listening to this show don't know what they're going to do, right? They are debating on whether they leave their marriage or they don't leave their marriage. And I feel like it's not while you're going through that process of deciding, it probably is natural that you're going to pull away a little, but then not pull away completely. I mean, like I
Yeah.
feel like you can see it like, okay, well, I'm still gonna go on a family vacation,
Of course, you're
right?
gonna do all the fun things, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the issue. And so the other spouse that's really holding down the fort, that's trying to make it work, that really doesn't know their role anymore.
Yeah.
It's hard for them because they wanna make the marriage work or the relationship work, and so if the ex says like, "Oh, well, you're making Thanksgiving dinner, right? Well, the kids are there. I mean, of course I'm gonna come." Or it's Sunday night after a basketball game, maybe the ex shows up and they're like, "Well, you wanna get dinner?" Well, of course they wanna get dinner because they don't wanna look like the bad guy in front of the kids. They want their cake and eat it too. And that's what we're talking about today is like, what do you do when the other side wants their cake and eat it too? And you're like, "Well, I'm just a punching bag here."
What do you do? I mean, God, I don't know. I feel like what from my personal experience, I think that in my marriage, I went through a phase where I knew that my spouse was married to me the for reasons that did not line up with how why I would want to be married to someone, right? So I so I don't know if that's really being strung along or but I don't know. It's so I can't I'm having trouble even putting words to this because I don't know what somebody does.
Yeah,
And I see it and I think what I'm having such a hard time is like villainizing the person who is doing this behavior because I don't know how much of it is conscious behavior and I don't know. I mean, let's flip this for a second. Have you had a client come into your office who wants to be represented by you, or maybe they already have hired you and they're the ones who's quote unquote stringing their partner along?
for
And
sure.
what do you say to them?
That's good to turn it on me. Thank you for that.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what I say to them is, "What's your goal?" Do you see this long term? Do you know? So those people, usually the ones that are stringing the other side along, what they don't like, what really shakes them up and makes them upset is boundaries. So what I say to them when they come into my office is, okay, I hear where you're at. As long as your spouse or your ex or your girlfriend or whatever it is okay with what you're doing right now, I'm okay with it. Whatever works for you works for me. But don't be shocked if your spouse says, we're not doing it like this anymore. You're going to have a schedule with the kids if you're out of the house. We're going to have parameters around how we're dealing with one another. And you can't come and go as you please because one, it's not healthy for me. And two, it's certainly not healthy for the children. We need to have somebody present. And those boundaries, sometimes I've seen it either keep a marriage together or it's really the deciding factor because usually the person who's kind of having their cake and eating it too, they don't like that. So they have to make a decision on their end of what to do.
I wonder how many people who are like, let's back up a step. Let's say they haven't yet said, I'm going to be coming and going as I please, right? Like announcing that they're going to be doing. Let's just say they're kind of dabbling.
Well, hold on a second because I just want to be clear. Most people never say that. They just do it. So no most people are never going to come to the relationship and say, "Listen, here's how it's going to be. I'm going to come and go as I please. I'm gonna go out to the bars and to the concerts as I please. You're gonna put the kids to bed every night as I please, and I'll be around as I please." Like, they don't say it like that. It's just what happens, right? And usually there's a blame in it. There's a or an excuse. The excuse is work. I'm building up my business. I have to take out clients, those kind of things. So, but when you step back and you look at like the last week, the last month, they're rarely around, and they're usually around when they want and or when it is suitable for them.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
All right, let me give you another option, right?
Mhm.
It's kinda like if you've been in a relationship before, and maybe let's just say you're not married to this person, but I think we've all been there, right? You know that the relationship, let's just say that I'm the person that knows the relationship probably isn't working, but there's that familiarity that's kind of nice, right? So it's like going back to the relationship. You kinda tell him maybe you don't know if you see it going anywhere. But gosh, on that Friday night where I don't have anyone else better to do anything with, and then the texts start, and it's like, "All right, fine, I'll have dinner with you because it works for me." That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about, but it's in a marriage, and it's in a marriage with way more complexities, and it's this poor person who's the one that's trying to hold it together, but then can potentially end up looking like bad guy.
And what I'm wondering here, okay, so now let's frame it up like this. You've got not only like your like nuclear family, but also extended family. So there could be benefits of being married to this person because you really like their family, right? And you want to do things with those people and that's really enjoyable to you. Or you have a family vacation coming up, right? Or let's just say that maybe there's nothing that you really have to look forward to, but it's the fear of making that big choice and leaving keeps you in this place of like not really realizing that you are stringing someone along, but it's just you're kind of hurting yourself just as much as you're hurting them because nothing's happening. The relationship is going to deteriorate. You're going to probably I'm thinking out loud as I'm saying this. Do you think that by doing this, you're going to have a more tumultuous dissolution of marriage because there could be some more like built up resentment for the way that it was handled? Or no? I mean, I guess it's really hard to say.
So what usually the person who, is we have to like name the spouse. Let's just put it as Dan is the guy that is kind of having his cake and eating it too. Wait, no, what do we usually Chad? Chad. We
Chad
always
and Brenda.
Chad.
How
Chad
could
and
you
Brenda.
forget Chad and
I'm
Brenda after all
sorry,
these
my
years?
brain. It's the end of the week. Okay, so we have Chad.
Mhm.
Chad's just coming and going as he pleases. He says he's not sure if he wants a divorce, but he's really messed up. He has a lot of work going on. And Brenda's at the house holding it down. She doesn't want a divorce. She wants to try to get Chad back, wants to have him involved, etc.
Mhm.
So the issue is that Chad isn't, and this is bad to say because it could be a woman, but Chad isn't man enough to figure out what he wants or doesn't want, or to pull the plug if it's not what he wants. He's just not. He's stringing her along. He's having his cake and he's eating it too. So the minute that Brenda puts her foot down and says, we're going to have some boundaries here, number one, Chad's not going to be happy with that. And number two, now Brenda's kind of the bad guy. And so certainly it could turn on Brenda because now she's the one at fault. She's the one that pulled the plug. When poor Brenda is just trying to hold it together and saying, this isn't fair to me or the children.
What do you think people notice beyond, like, the not being around as much? Like, I'm wondering, like, what do you think are the tells that somebody could be stringing you along? Like, I mean, we people always talk about, like, noticing, like, a lack of intimacy in your relationship all of the sudden, but I feel like if we're really talking about having your cake and eating it too, my mind just went to such a gross place. But, like, I feel like sex is probably not something that would be paused because I feel like I don't know. Like, I don't know. And this is not something that I personally experienced. So I'm kind of figuring out here like what this would look like.
I see both ways. I see people in a marriage that at that point is sexless or very, close to being sexless. And I see people giving it or doing it as much as possible because they're trying to keep the relationship strong. And one side, wants that more. So I see both sides. I don't think that's a telltale sign. I think watching the actions of the person who's having their cake and eating it too, that's the telltale sign. Do they come and go as they please? Does your schedule not matter to them? Does the children's schedule matter to them only when it works for their schedule? Are they there for the tough times with the kids? Meaning, are they there at the doctor appointments? Are they there, for the big events at school? Or is it just, well, my schedule, allows me to be there on this day? Those are more telltale signs. Also, lots of changes in plans. So you make plans, you say, hey, you're going to be there on Monday night. I'll see you there. Something comes up. And it's not just one time, it's consistent times. And then you say to them, okay, well, what can you commit to? And they're like, I can't commit to things. I'm so busy.
Yeah.
I'm so busy. Things are so crazy for me. And Brenda's saying, well, guess what, MFer? Things are busy and crazy for me, and I'm holding it down over here. And it could be either side of the relationship. And then you're tasked again with either putting up with it in hopes that it saves the relationship or putting your foot down, putting some boundaries in place.
I feel like what you just said is a big one. That feels like something that would really get my attention is having things change and then feeling like you're not a priority.
Yep.
That would be something that would be big. Okay. So beyond just the fact that you don't wanna do this and you wouldn't like the way that it feels to you, why is it so important that people don't behave in this way and you're not communicating directly about the big scary thing in the room, which is, "I don't feel like this marriage is working for me anymore."
Number one is it really takes a toll on somebody, right? So it takes a toll on someone mentally. And yes, we know divorce does too. What I say to people in these situations is number one, we need to get you with a therapist. We need to get you strong so that you can make the best decision for you when and if it's ready or, it's time to do that. So that's the first place that I put somebody when they are kind of vacillating back and forth. They're having these issues, etc. And then I say to them, you've got two routes, I guess I should say, two streets you can walk down.
Mhm.
If you are okay with being treated like this and having really no stability and no schedule and them coming and going as they please, but you are staying married and that's your number one goal, if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. But know that you basically are living this marriage or this partnership by yourself. You don't have another partner on the other side. You're really doing things alone. And if that's okay with you, if that works, just so you don't have the big D word, divorce, coming out of it, that's fine. The other thing I say is if it's not fine, if you wake up one day, because a lot of people say it's fine for a long time, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. So I have somebody who is in the middle of it and they're saying it's fine. I just want to stay married. And I said, okay, but at some point it's probably not going to be fine.
Mhm.
And when that happens, let's talk because that's when we start talking about what boundaries look like. And boundaries can be good or bad. Boundaries can be good because sometimes they shake up that other side who has the cake and eating it too. And they say, hey, whoa, boundaries? Like you're not going to be at my beck and call? Hold on a minute. And they don't like that. And sometimes they come back to the marriage. Other times it's just better for you mentally. But that's when the client says to me, and this, they say it all the time, but wait, but now I'm the bad guy.
But how can the boundary itself be bad? I mean, I think maybe in return you're getting a result that maybe you weren't anticipating, but I don't know that a boundary can be a bad thing, right?
In my mind, a boundary isn't bad, but it truly could force that person to be mad about that boundary and move forward towards a
To fuck
divorce.
over yourself. I mean, like, honestly. And, it's hard to hear what you said, and I understand that for a lot of people, they can, I don't want to say look the other way because that's not really what it is, but they find a way to reason with themselves. I'm having a hard time finding the words here when they know that things are not good, but they're like, it's not bad enough to leave. Right. And what you just said after that was really sticking with me. At some point, it's going to be bad enough for
Yeah.
most people. You're going to feel it. What we were just talking about this at the beginning of the episode, my hair. I wanted to not look at what was going on in my life for so long. And then I got really fucking sick and I lost most of my hair. And there's going to be something like you will start to crumble at some point. And I do think that as much as it is uncomfortable to say, I don't like this, this is not working. And even if you are not the one who wants the divorce initially, but you're feeling like your partner is doing this. I don't think there is anything wrong with saying, okay, there's clearly something going on here. You're not you're not behaving like a happily married person. What is it? Because if you do just ignore it and you allow yourself to be played, it's going to get bad. And now I'm thinking about something else here. Ooh, welcome to the show, Andrea. You just woke up. You were saying before about people going to therapy to get in the best mental shape possible. And that's a theme we talk about all the time. But one of the things that happens is I think, unfortunately, most people enter the divorce process so mentally and emotionally low because they have been trying to make something work that's not going to work for such a long time and they're tired.
Yeah. Here, though, I have to go back for 1 second because I feel like I'm you now. Because I feel like I'm being the less like legal minded right now, saying black and white things. And I'm kind of more touchy feely on this one thing. You
Mhm.
went back and you said, obviously, if the other side's pushing, boundaries aren't bad. But the person who is trying to keep it together, for them, boundaries are really scary.
Right.
And the
That makes sense.
reason is because they're worried that if they actually put their foot down and get the respect they deserve and need, that that other person is going to be like, well, yeah, that thanks for doing that. I'm out of here. We're going to get a divorce, which is what that person doesn't
Right.
want. So that's
They
the
don't want the
biggest.
answer. Yeah,
No.
they don't no, I get it, and I totally get it. It is so scary because I think in the back of your mind, you're like, "Maybe we can hold this together," but what I want those people to hear right now is, "Are are you really happy?
Hmm.
And is
Yep.
this the life that you deserve?" If somebody is having an extracurricular activity in your marriage and are you really that happy? Right? Are you getting what you really deserve? And yes, it is your choice to handle it now or to put it off. But I think my warning to everybody is the longer that you put it off, the more harm you are likely going to do to yourself, then to your children, and then ultimately, this relationship that you have with this person is going to get ugly. And that divorce process can look a whole lot more complicated and difficult because you're going to have so much emotional baggage sitting there. I don't think that it makes the conversation any easier, but
And I think if you're listening to this and you're freaking out in your head, there is a step before divorce. It's the boundaries. And you want to talk to your lawyer about what those boundaries might look like. I'm currently doing it with a client right now. What do the boundaries look like? What do we know might kind of shake them up a little bit? Like, for instance, I said to one of my clients, the ex believes that, they haven't really been around at all, but they're going to do Christmas together. And I said, no, no, no. This is a boundary. You draw the line in the sand. You say you're either all in or you're out. Like, we're not gonna play this game of, yeah, we're kumbaya, big family on a holiday when you basically haven't shown up for 6 months. And I know everybody would love to celebrate Christmas together. I get it. But those are the boundaries that we can talk about laying down so that it might show the other side what it might look like if they continue this behavior.
like you're talking about somebody who obviously has already had a meeting with you, so they're leaning towards divorce, right? If we back up before that step, and someone hasn't yet hired counsel, right? And they're just either doing that behavior that we talked about at the beginning where they're avoiding coming home, which I mean, I did that shit. I totally did that stuff. Or they are the ones who feel like their spouse is kind of ping-ponging them around. What what kind of a boundary? I mean, what do you think that conversation looks like? Because I'm still leaning in this place of somebody has to recognize what's going on and say, we either need to work towards forming a new relationship, like working on this marriage with the idea of keeping it intact and rediscover each other and blah blah blah, or we need to redefine this relationship.
Agree. I mean, I think that's the first step, right? Having that hard conversation, maybe having the different routes available to you. And what I mean by that is marital counseling, if that's a thing, or, I just sent another couple this week to discernment counseling. Remember, we did that
Yeah.
amazing episode with the founder of discernment counseling. If you're out there and you're like, what the hell is discernment counseling? I have no idea what you're saying. Go back in our episodes. It was a fabulous episode, and it's something that's not widely talked about enough in my mind, but it's an option out there for people who are struggling in their marriage or their relationship. So think about it. So that would be the first step, I would say, if they haven't consulted an attorney. And it all really is fact dependent about what that other side is doing. But if you're sitting out there and you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, this is me, I'm getting walked all over. They basically are saying they want to work together, but their actions are saying otherwise, and then I'm feeling like the bad guy. That's what we're talking about today. And go consult with an attorney about this because you don't have to move forward. You don't have to move forward with a lawyer. You don't have to move forward with divorce, but they could give you ideas on how to basically shake it up to see if this marriage can be survivable. And we're a big proponent on this show of not pushing people into divorce. That's not why we're here. In fact, when I meet with clients and I think that their marriage can be saved, I do whatever possible to keep that marriage together if it's healthy and happy. So, my point is sometimes you just need some creative ideas. And if that's you, definitely seek out that advice and get those ideas because knowledge is power. And that's what we say on the show all the time.
So at what point do you think somebody should go and speak to an attorney? Like, let's say you're noticing that your spouse is behaving in a way that they have not typically behaved, and it's been like this for a few months. And let's say maybe there's been some weird financial things in addition to this. Maybe you just have that feeling. Do you go and speak to somebody or do you wait?
I think it's TBD on everybody. It's all different on the facts, but your facts with financial strangeness, things going on, if kids are involved. I mean, I am a proponent of getting the information and then making the best decision for you. Just because you're getting the information does not mean you're getting a divorce. And there's other ways to get the information. For instance, Andrea and I put a class on our website, and it's a class that will give you a lot of good information related to divorce, relationships, etc. It's a crash course. It's super simple, and you can watch it discreetly. Those are different ways to gather information short of going to an attorney.
If your spouse has told you, let's say that they're being a little bit more direct, like, and I do know of people who lived through this. Their spouse is saying, I'm gonna get it. I'm sorry, we're gonna get a divorce. We're gonna get a divorce. It's happening. But then they never file, right? And they
Yep.
keep talking about it and they keep threatening it every time they get annoyed with you. They're like, well, I'm going to be divorcing you. And you're like, motherfucker, when? When? But they don't actually do anything. Do you start the process? I mean, and there are people out there who I know are going to say, "But I don't want to get a divorce." And I have to say, "I'm sorry, but why would you want to remain married to somebody who keeps threatening divorce on you?"
Right.
Like,
It's
that
well,
is abuse.
it is abusive. And here, you've got the 2 options that we're talking about today. Those are really your 2 options when you have somebody doing that. I'm threatening divorce every argument, you're like walking on eggshells because you're like, "Did you take the garbage out?" And they're like, "What? No, we're getting a divorce."
We're
It's just,
getting a
you
divorce.
know, or the garbage. But you've got the 2 options. The option is suck it up. Number 1 option is suck it up. Can you suck it up and can you be healthy mentally by doing that?
No,
I don't
no.
know, but it's not my decision to make, right?
I mean, I'll tell you no, but that's just me. That's a hard
Exactly.
no.
Hard no for Andrea, and I'm a
No.
little more, light on that. I'll let you make your own decision, but
No,
can you do
come on. Really? They can't. Maybe for a while, but it is not sustainable. It's not unless you then also look outside of the marriage to have to be emotionally, mentally, and physically fulfilled.
Okay, I don't disagree with you at all right there, but some people are just not there. So I have to let them play it out because I agree at some point it's not going to be okay. You can't be a punching bag forever and still live a healthy, happy life. You just can't. You can do it for a period of time. You can pretend, but at some point that voice in your head is going to say this is not okay. So
It's gonna
a lot of
cost you a
people
lot of money in hair extensions.
exactly. We don't want that or maybe we do. I don't know.
You might.
So that's option
For
1.
volume.
For
Yeah.
volume. Got it. Number 2 is the boundaries, and whatever that looks like. That could look like therapy. That could look like putting boundaries in place via text or email or conversation. That could look like divorce. Those are your 2 options, and unfortunately, you're gonna have to be strong to do either option.
Yeah. I like what you said before, though, about, and I think it's an important point that we forget to make sometimes. When you're gathering this information, you're not making a decision, and that is okay. You should gather information before you make a decision. You don't roll into a divorce attorney's office and speak to them, and they're like, just so you know, now that you're talking to me, everybody's going to know that you want a divorce. And I'm gonna, and it's done. It's that you're basically already divorced just by having this conversation. It's not a thing. Taking our divorce crash course, you're just educating yourself. We could have called the course, flowers and handbags. And it doesn't mean that you're going to turn into a flower or a handbag or you're getting a divorce. You're just getting the information so that you have a realistic expectation if you choose to go down that road. And I
Yep.
think that that's so important. And if you are the person who is behaving in this way of stringing someone along, I really do think that it's important that we go back to what we said earlier, that it might not be fully intentional. It might not be that you are seeking
Mhm.
out this, I'm going to have my cake and eat it too. You I think there are people who are just doing the very best that they can. And they
Agreed, and
don't they're n
that's what causes this guilt for the person who is on the other side. It's like, well, that maybe they are doing the best they can. And that's when that person has to say, but is that enough for me?
right. Well, we really left everybody with a real conundrum today, didn't we?
We did. But, I'm seeing more of it. I'm seeing more of it these days. So we have to address it. We don't want to just sweep it under the rug. We have to address it because when I'm seeing clients come in confused and all these kind of things, and maybe you're in a relationship listening to this and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm the cake and eating it too."
Yeah.
And if you are, some things to think about, food for thought today.
Haha, cake for thought. I mean, look, I've talked about this, for a while on social media, the things that you do when you're trying to distract yourself, from the pain. And these distractions obviously serve a purpose. I mean, I talked about many times how I used to drive around my neighborhood and park my car a block over and just sit there to avoid going home. We all do these things, and it doesn't mean that they're necessarily wrong because you have to do these things to survive and catch your breath. It's just
Right.
a matter of, is it becoming a habit because you don't want to make a change or make a choice? And is this behavior ultimately really going to hurt yourself, hurt hurt the other person, which I mean, I think it's hard to also be considerate of somebody else's feelings when you're drowning in your own pain. You know what I mean?
I know
It's
sometimes you're
hard.
doing the best that you can. And that's the thing is that somebody always in a divorce, rare, sometimes it's both, but for the most part, it's usually somebody that says, I can't do it anymore. I just
Yeah.
can't. And with a lot of therapy, you will figure out whether you can or can't. So we're not telling you one way or the other, but this is a thing that we're seeing a lot of. And it's, we want you to know about it and the ideas that are behind it.
The couples therapy, I did not do a discernment, but we did do couples therapy before I I don't want to say before I decided, but we did couples therapy before I told my ex-husband that I wanted to divorce. And that process really does, for a lot of people, make you see a little bit more clearly. Because as you start looking at the relationship and what there is to salvage and what where the problems live, at at a certain point, it'll probably hit you over the head and scream at you. Either, "There is so much good here. There is so much good, and we've just drifted in this way, and let's try." And let's say you do that and it still doesn't work after a while, well, then at least you went through that process where you can walk away knowing, "I really tried."
That's what I
We
say all the time. I say, I don't know if you're here yet, but do you think that you did everything you could to look back if it doesn't work out and say, I tried everything? Because I never want a couple to say, well, we didn't try that. We didn't do any of that. And
Right.
I don't want you to look back and be upset with yourself.
But for a lot of other people, when they're going through couples therapy and the therapist is talking about, well, you can do this and you can do that and da 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 da, in their bodies, they just feel this scream of no. The
Hmm.
idea of doing this stuff with you to save this is making me physically sick. Listen to that. Listen to that and don't judge it. There could be there you have to listen and you have to be honest and you have to be honest with yourself and then ultimately be honest with the person whom you're navigating this with. Because by not being honest, you are only delaying the inevitable and it's going to get sticky and icky
Ooh,
and you're
sticky
going to
Nicky. I
lose
would
all
love
your
that.
hair. Sticky, icky.
No,
Yes.
thank you. No, thank you.
No.
Okay. So listen, this was a heavy episode because we kind of touched on a lot of things. So if it's hitting you in a way, maybe it doesn't feel comfortable, we know. We got you. That's why we're here. That's why we do these episodes. And we're always available to answer any direct messages. We have a community on Facebook and we also are on TikTok. Basically, any social media, you'll find us. If you want to look up our class, go to our website. The class is there online. And remember, it doesn't come as divorce crash course on your credit card. It comes out as DCC. Why? Because we don't want people to know what you're buying. You should be able to get your information confidentially, and that's why we did it.
And it's the same thing If you are looking to meet with an attorney, you can also talk to them about protecting your privacy, you know, with all of that. So make sure you ask those questions if that's something you're going to do. And if you are thinking about meeting with an attorney, please do take a look at the DCC before you do so, because we have an entire section dedicated to helping you find the person who's going to be the right fit for you and the right fit for your case. So that is like a huge part of the DCC. One thing that I want to say before we let you guys go today is that, yeah, this topic was heavy, and I am living proof that you do come out on the other side of this a whole lot shinier than you did on the way in.
Better
You
hair.
might better hair. You'll go through that sticky, icky shit. And number one, and you are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But it doesn't stay with you forever and ever and ever. It really doesn't. When you get brave, and when you really, and it doesn't have to be ripping off a Band-Aid. You can peel a little bit of that Band-Aid back at first. And then if you have to put that Band-Aid back on because you're like, not ready yet, that's okay too. But don't ignore. Take a look, get curious. That is when the I can't say that's when the healing begins, but that's when you're able to start unpacking what it is. And that is the first step, being able to look at it, name it, and see it for what it is. That's when the change will occur. It's a
Right.
beautiful process. People think that divorce is so ugly, and it's not. It can really be an evolution of you coming into the strongest and most confident version of yourself. And sometimes, in order to get there, you've got to be stripped down. So,
Mm. That was
mm,
good. I mean, Andrea has, lived it, so take it from her, and I've watched it firsthand myself, so take it from Andrea. I always say that who you are right now, you will be so much better in 5 years, so much better. Take that from me. I have clients calling me 5 years later, and they say, "I know you said this, and I thought you were full of shit." But I'm fabulous in 5 years. So listen, if you love our show, we want you to rate and review us. We want you to share it with your friends, your ex, your book club. We don't care. We do this for you, and we do answer any emails that you might send our way.
that's absolutely right. So, remember, we love you guys. We're here to support you. We know that We know you're going through it, and we know that you might not love everything that we have to say, but we're here to give you the guidance. We're here to give you the truth because we want you to ultimately not suck at what could be a sucky process that really should be looked at as a chance for you to grow and evolve into the happiest and healthiest version of yourself.
Exactly. Remember, divorce is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It could be day by day, it could be hour by hour, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, I want you to know that you have got this and we have got you.